indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You all be seated. Mrs. Slash, would you please read the Open Public Meeting Act announcement?
According to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Daily Record. Notice has been posted in the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, and notice was sent to those requesting the same.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ferrante?
Here.
Mr. Nacastro?
Here.
Mr. Perkins?
Here.
Mr. Roman?
Here.
Mr. Stazak?
Here.
Mr. Mania?
Here.
Mrs. Laybaum?
Here.
Okay.
Okay, first item on our agenda is discussion of the grinder pump maintenance. Mr. Canning?
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to call up Jimmy Lynch. He's our Assistant DPW Director. We've been working on this for several months, and we benchmarked around the, actually around the nation on several other communities. And then what we found is, we have a possible, not a problem, but a service gap coming around 2015 when the grinder pumps from a lot of the Bud Lake sewer get turned over to the homeowners. One of the concerns that were expressed, and I think it's incumbent upon us at least to offer a solution to some of the residents, is if somebody's grinder pump goes out, does the local plumber or somebody they call may or may not be able to adequately address that. So as an alternative, and again, we don't want to be in the business of government knows best, but at least we want to provide a possible solution to the homeowner. We're familiar with grinder pumps. There's the possibility that we can have several in stock. So I had asked Jim to look into around the country and some best practices, and that's incorporated in that memo to council. What we'd like to do is just I guess encourage a debate tonight, feel out council's preference for hours of service, pricing, and that sort of thing. And if we're able to come to some sort of agreement tonight, we'd like to incorporate that into an ordinance change come April 16th or April 30th. But we're just trying to be a little proactive and be able to provide our residents a service when this transition occurs. Jim, do you want to go through the memo you had sent to?
What council, I think, has been presented with, very brief, I think it's a 3-page memo, outlines several options. I looked around the coast, Southwest, just different areas, and see how essentially these situations where a large project such as this is paid off, and then the rights of the grinder pumps. I'm sure you've all been through it before the meeting. There's a couple, issues we can have options on, and I kind of tried to present it a la carte in this, in terms of rates and how it's handled. It's very simple in how it's laid out. It's really up to your questions, what I think are going to drive where we want to go with this.
Madam President, if I could point out one, on subsections F and H, it's kind of an either or there, and I should have put it that it's optional. I'm more in favor of recommending the lower rate for the homeowners. On H, it's a minimum 2-day rental if somebody was to need a grinder pump not to exceed 7 days, and it's a $10 rental fee per day. Whereas F is a little bit more expensive, and I would imagine that's to cover any unexpected costs at $100 premium, but there's no upper limit on the days of rental on that. So F and H are kind of contrary. It's an either or.
Mr. Roman?
Is this something that has been, in other words, are we trying to address an issue that is prevalent out there, or are we trying to address something that maybe people don't even need? Did this arise from a need?
Yeah, we get grinder pump repairs, and water and sewer do currently have to address and repair them. Currently, they're our responsibility. There are pumps.
Right, there are pumps. I'm talking about as far as residents. I mean, has there been a rash of complaints? I mean, in other words, are we trying to address something that in the public they haven't even called for, or we haven't even seen the problem in order to address it?
There is a need out there. There's grinder pump failures. Now, what we're trying to fill the gap is if a local plumber isn't adequately prepared to address this, the town at least can step in and provide the service.
And I assume any service that we'll be providing will either be breaking even or slightly turning a profit.
Correct. Yeah, we're looking to cover our costs, our parts and labor. Now we have union contracts, so if it's a Saturday repair, obviously we have to account for at least minimum 4-hour call out. But if it was during business hours and they were just in need of renting a grinder pump for 7 days, conceivably it'd be a $70 cost. That's just to cover our costs.
It's not to turn a profit.
And have we priced out what this kind of service would be provided by a local plumber? You know, because one of the issues that I have is having government take the business away from, you know, a business entity. You know, if a business can't provide that need, then I can understand where we should be stepping in. You know,
That's not our intent. Our intent is honestly just to be a stopgap measure. If the local plumber is not equipped to provide somebody, you know, if they say, well, I can't get you a grinder pump for 2 weeks, that's an awful long time. That person can't go without that service. We may be able to fill that gap. It's not our intent to go into business or become a private alternative to a plumber, put them out of business.
And have we sought the input of any of our local plumbing suppliers?
No, I haven't contacted anybody directly on this.
Thank you.
Mr. Perkins?
Thank you, Madam President. Sean, I had asked you to look into this matter a while back. It's based upon a proactive approach. At the present time, I believe, Jim, correct me, there's probably close to 200 grinder pumps, give or take.
Approximately, yeah.
That are out
I
there.
don't have the exact number.
Up until 2015, when the grinder pump becomes the homeowner's responsibility, all of the stickers, all the notifications tell you to contact the water and sewer department for any maintenance issues. So we had given some thought to the possibility of the township providing that service as a stopgap measure to assist the public who is going to be getting some notification in the mail that says the special assessment fee is no longer being charged and now you own the grinder pump and any and all future maintenance will be borne by the homeowner. So we felt it might be appropriate for us to include in our water and sewer fees an appropriate level of service to the homeowner who's used to calling us for this service, and they have an option. They can go to the local plumber and have the local plumber come out, or they can come back to the township and ask the township to do the repair for them. Considering we've been doing that, we have all the spare pumps. I believe we stock about 3 or 4 spare
There's,
grinder
at
pumps.
this time, 3 that I know of that are functioning.
So we have the capability to be able to provide the resident with a cost-effective means to be able to have their grinder pump repaired with exactly the same parts and equipment that have been utilized for the past 15 years. So this is not to prevent a homeowner such as myself from calling a private company to come out and repair my grinder pump when it's done, but it gives me an option that I can get to the township and I can ask the township to come out and take care of that. I think, Sean, the only question that I would have would be in the number 2 under the policy, where in bold letters and underscored, it says that we will not provide 24-hour, 7-day-a-week maintenance. But then we go further down and we say that, normal business hours and should repairs extend beyond the time. Are we saying that if somebody calls up during the evening, after hours, let's say 5 o'clock in the evening, and our water and sewer personnel are gone, that we're going to tell them to either hold on until the next day or contact a private?
The initial proposal is for 8:30 at night. After 8:30 at night, it's not the same as a water main break. We don't, it's inconvenient, but it may not be that emergency status from 8:30 p.m. until 7 o'clock the next morning. So we'd have the upper limit about 8:30 at night.
So if somebody calls at 9 o'clock at night, dispatch is
More
going
likely
to...
they'd be inconvenienced until the morning, or they have the option of calling a plumber if that would, if it's that much of an emergency.
Okay.
But again, this is flexible. This is a proposal. If council feels they want a later time range, it's a working document we have in front of you.
I mean, my consideration would be to look at this and to say, well, okay, we have to call somebody out to go out to repair the pump. It's 4 hours, I believe, minimum for a call out, same as it would be for a break. And if the homeowner is aware that it's in a fee, we say if it's after hours and you have to call, then here's a fee. Obviously, they look at that fee and they can go, oops, don't want to pay that. I'd much rather call, ABC Plumbing Supply and see if they'd come out. Now, obviously, if they come out at 9 o'clock at night, they're not coming out at their standard rate either. So, but I think we should have that option in there, Sean, if at all possible.
Okay.
Anyone else? I just have one question. What's the life expectancy of these grinder pumps?
Life expectancy of a grinder pump, there are residents in this town, I don't think there's a few, have never had an issue since they've been installed. It depends, a lot goes into where your grinder pump pit is located. I mean, if you had extreme flooding, if the resident is not taking good responsible care for it, if they're putting coarse material through it, anything can exacerbate, can wear the pump. So, I mean, an average pump from, what I've done research on since I've been moved to Public Works and my experience with pumps and irrigation, you're looking at 15, 20, 25 years on a pump. I mean, a pump is designed to do one thing,
Right,
move
pump.
water. And that's what these pumps have done. The model that the town chose when the sewers were installed, this is an industry standard. I mean, these things, we see performance, there are issues, we do service them, we do have breakdowns in them. I'm gonna say, without having seen all of the data yet, I'm still waiting to sit with Mike Lotta, our water and sewer foreman, on some of this. There is 6 times out of 10, it's an issue that was introduced by the resident into the pump that's creating the issue. The other thing that can happen is, and we see this a lot when I was your buildings and grounds supervisor in this building, electrical spikes, voltage fluctuation in these pumps, that will hurt any motor. So there's other issues that go into it. It depends on the part of town they're in, with wind, with trees, flooding, it's a lot. But these pumps are, by and large, they're for what they do, for truly what they've been designed to do, they're a bulletproof unit.
But basically also at the 15-year mark, they're getting into the possible second half of their life, so it'd be good to offer a service like this to the residents.
It's a service that, I think in my discussion with Mr. Canning, there's a reasonable lifespan on these pumps. If we can look at up to 30 years on some of them, yes. It would be irresponsible for us not to offer, considering we have the expertise of staff that was here when the system was installed.
Right.
We know these things. We've worked on them for the better part of their entire existence. Without closing out, obviously, private contractors, our staff has the opportunity to go in a lot of times and rectify things pretty quickly just based upon what they've seen over the past 15 years.
Sounds good. Mr. Perkins and then Mayor?
Yeah, just one quick one. Jim, would you do me a favor? Take a look in the periodic maintenance of the pit itself. You may or may not know, and I'm on my 3rd grinder pump, and I have to assume that 2 of them were the direct result of flooding, all right, where the high-level alarm and everything got wet. But the one pump wouldn't shut off.
Okay.
And whatever reason that was. But when you pull the pump, and we're pretty pretty good about not pouring grease down the drain. Excuse me. Yeah, just came from a funeral. There's always grease that's floating around in there. Is there a recommendation that every so often that these things, you should pull the pump and suck out the grease that's in there and clean off the piece of the bottom section, the suction part of the pump?
I'll have to look into that for you. I don't know the answer. I will look into it.
Because I don't know of any way to get that grease out.
Yeah,
And when we pulled ours, the grayish color grease, and it wasn't a lot, but not compared to a septic tank. But
Correct.
there was enough that was still floating there, and it begins to make you wonder: is that a problem? Is that something that needs to be? Could you just get back to me? And let
I
me
will
know?
look into it, and I'll get back to council with an answer.
Thank you, Jim.
Mayor?
I have 2 comments. First of all, my preference would be not to get into this at all. However, I recognize that we do have some area of specialty with respect to the grinder pumps, that we can provide a service to the residents that they may not be able to get elsewhere. However, I'm not sure that I agree with Mr. Perkins in terms of the hours that the service should be provided. I think 8:30 is a reasonable time frame in terms of sending somebody out. It's like Mr. Canning said, it's not like a water main break. The inconvenience can be dealt with through the night generally until someone can get out there during working hours the next day. Our water and sewer guys generally have full plates to start with, and I don't think that we want to necessarily offer to stretch our staff out through the night hours unless it's an absolute emergency situation. I'm not sure that Mr. Perkins would disagree with that. I wasn't sure exactly.
No, I don't disagree at all with you, Rob.
Yeah.
My crux is because it's sewer, and if they can't flush, it could present a health issue. And I agree. The chances of that happening to me are probably slim. So it's really up to you guys in the council. Do you want to have a caveat in there that says, if you have an emergency and you have to call us out, here's our rate?
Yeah, it's probably a good idea that, to say that our hours after 8:30, we're not coming out unless there is.
It's an emergency.
Unless it's been deemed to be an emergent health situation, in which case the rates will be X, Y, and Z, and it should be left to the discretion of the municipality in terms of whether or not it's an emergent health situation.
I agree.
Okay.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mayor.
Stazak?
Sean, it's my understanding this is going to be a backup to a private contractor or plumber coming in and doing the work?
As an alternative.
It's an alternative.
If a local contractor cannot provide a grinder pump service, they're not familiar with it, they don't have extras around, at least the township would offer some relief to the residents.
Okay.
It's not our intent as a private business. If it's
Sure.
philosophically not in accord with the way we operate, again, I'm in agreement with me and the mayor on this, but we recognize there's a gap here that we may have to provide a service.
We'd be happy if we never got called. That's the bottom line.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lynch.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next on the agenda is the MCGIF and FEMA reimbursement status.
Just real briefly, the money has finally, checks in the mail. It's finally been slowly trickling in. On the FEMA side, FEMA has so far compensated us to one portion, but more importantly pledged on Category A, which is our debris removal, a total of $221,000. Now that covers our expenses thus far, than $273,000, but that's considered Category A and Category B. So we're still waiting for Cat B, which is our emergency response, our police overtime, our fire first aid, Bud Lake Rescue, and Flanders Fire Rescue. They have their own credits to come back to, but it's very satisfactory what we were given by FEMA last week. So Category A is covering the vast majority of our expenses so far, and we're looking forward to that balance of that check coming. On the GIF and the mail side, the GIF so far has compensated us to the tune of $48,000. That's primarily having to do with fencing, Dan Jordan fencing, Pine Street water tower, recycling yard. The balance of another $224,000 that had to go to the excess carrier, and we're anticipating that to be approved possibly at the April 8th, April 10th meeting of the MEL. So we'll be looking forward to that. There's a lot of other damage, particularly Drakesbrook, our storage shed. We have a problem up there right now with storage. That roof is still a problem, causing Frank Wilbur Jr. to have to kind of scratch and claw and find other places to store items, and just that repair alone will be $17,000. So I'm looking forward to that check. But I just want to keep council up to speed as to where we're at. You know, we got our paperwork in, and you know the checks are coming.
Do you know how Bud Lake Fire Department made out with their generator?
They've been trying to repair it. It looks like we're going to have to go out to bid or use the state contract on now. I've been in
Okay.
touch with Chief Evans as recently as last week, just refining the technical specs on that. It doesn't look like it's going to be repaired to the point where it's going to be reliable.
Yeah.
And that generator is I don't know how they got it, but it's an old military model. It generally used to drop out of C-130s, and
Yeah.
it's done its task, but it's very difficult to find repairs for that
Yeah,
model.
that's what they're saying. Anyone else have any questions on this? Okay, thank you. Seeing none.
Good job.
Yeah, very good job. Excellent. Thank God. You knew what you were doing with all that stuff. We'd be still talking about filling out the paperwork.
You should be a pro at that, right?
He is.
Coming from where, UK?
Yep.
I came here to get away from that.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's your fault.
It's all your
I brought it
fault.
with me.
You brought it with you. Okay, we have our resolutions. Anybody have any questions? Concern? You want to do for the humanity? Yeah, you want to,
Thank you, Madam President. I invited Morris Habitat for Humanity. I've listed Corsi here from Morris Habitat, and as per the memo,
Yeah, you can come
they'd
on.
like to make a brief presentation and a request by Rezo, a waiver of the noise ordinance for the week of the May 18th and 19th. I provided council with a backup memo on this, and we took the liberty of doing a mailing to the immediate area neighbors that might be affected by this. And I'm not sure if anybody's here from the immediate area or not tonight, but
And we have
made
the-
sure that they had outreach.
and we have the resolution on for tonight already.
Thank you. Yes, as you may know, we were
Excuse me,
I'm sorry.
Your name and...
It's Liz DeCourcy.
Thank you.
Do you want the spelling?
No, and you're with,
Morris Habitat for Humanity, Director of
you.
Operations. The town donated the lot to Mars Habitat at 24 Lozier Road, and we've since received all our approvals and building permits. And as many of you know, the Habitat model uses volunteer labor to construct the home, and we're just finishing one up on Hatacawana, and it takes about a year for us to do that. One of the things we thought about doing at the Lozier Road project was a blitz build, which would shorten the duration of the construction by up to 5 months. And we would take it from foundation to drywall in over the weekend. But we do need some support from the municipality in order to do that. We are looking for the ability to work over the weekend, relief from the noise ordinance, some police and EMT support, and also inspections over the weekend. There will be several hundred volunteers brought onto the site over the weekend to help with the build. And we would be shuttling them from off-site locations since it's a very tight road and lot up there. But I have my Director of Construction, Doug, right here, if anyone has any questions on the process or what the weekend would entail.
Anybody have any? Mr. Perkins?
Thank you, Madam President. How you doing, Doug? Doug, you guys enrolled this in clean energy?
We enroll all of our homes as Energy Star certified, and it will be certified by an independent auditor. So,
My question is, I guess, Liz, when you said you're going to go from foundation through pre-drywall,
through drywall, we will have spackle Sunday.
so you're going to have our inspector, our framing inspector, our electrical inspector, our plumbing inspectors, and the clean energy inspector there to do your pre-drywall inspections and all thermal bypass checklist, all of that on the weekend.
What we would anticipate needing is probably late on the afternoon of Saturday. We would need the mechanical inspections, which would be your electrical inspector and your plumbing inspector, as well as the building inspector, which would okay us for insulation. Insulation would be installed early on Sunday morning, and we would then need an inspection by the building inspector for drywall on Sunday. So the mechanical, pretty much the building inspection team would be needed on Saturday, and then just the building inspector on Sunday.
And when is, you guys are using Rivero?
Yes.
And when is he coming?
He would have to be there either first thing Sunday morning or later Saturday. They are actually one of our volunteers, and in addition to doing our energy rating, we've trained some of their guys in construction technique, and they've been out on our Hatacawana Terrace build. So I anticipate they'll probably be there actually swinging hammers all weekend.
Okay. And the administration, we were able to get our inspectors there over the weekend?
Yeah, we have a commitment from Gary and his team that they'll be available over the weekend.
Excellent. Thanks, Doug.
Mr. Roman?
I, for one, want to applaud you for all your efforts, especially the one that you've already done in Hatacawana Terrace. I was privileged to be there, one of your construction efforts, and I'm amazed that you'll be able to do that much work over the weekend, and I figure if Ty Pennington can do it, why can't you?
With a lot less money.
Congratulations.
I did want to also mention that many of you know that the Rockefeller Christmas tree came from Flanders, and we are proposing to put some of the wood back into the Lozier Roadhouse. So this will cause some media excitement around the build as well.
Excellent.
Mr. Mania?
I also commend you, and as a member of the Knights of Columbus, I've been asked to supply lunch for you guys. So you let me know what you want for lunch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. How do you process the wood from the tree? Like, how are you going to use it on the house? Because I had read that article, and I was wondering what you were going to...
Spire, who owns Rockefeller Center, actually had a contract with a local mill. The tree was shipped from Rockefeller Center out to the mill, where they milled it, dried it, and it is now sitting in my warehouse.
Oh, very good.
Half of it went back to New York City, to the New York City Habitat, and like I said, the other half is in my warehouse and will be used in probably 4 homes here in Flanders.
Very good. Excellent.
Talk about reuse.
I know, that's recycle. Yes, Mr. Mania.
How many people do you feel you'll have there on that weekend?
It'll be several hundred people over the weekend, but we're
My
going to do
God.
it in shifts. Because as you can imagine, there's a lot of people that have interest in coming on the site, so we have to limit the
I guess
hours.
I need a 700-foot long substation.
I was also going to say, we should, all of the local restaurants like Vincenzo's and Bud Light Diner, let everybody know that that's coming, that all these people are going to be coming, because, you know, a lot of people might stop by and, you know, hang out there, and they'd be thrilled to welcome everybody to come in and...
Yeah, we have a hospitality committee that's working on that.
Oh, okay, you already got that all buttoned up and ready to go. Thank you.
This isn't their first project.
No. I just remember many years ago working at Bud Light Diner, it was always nice when we knew it was open fish day and
Yeah,
hunting day,
trout
because
season.
because all of a sudden, 3 o'clock in the morning, all these people would start coming in, but if you knew about it ahead of time, it was great to be prepared. So thank you very much. This is a great job. It's very exciting, and I'll definitely be stopping by to see how it's going, and it's a lot of fun.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Alrighty. Any other questions on? Oh, okay. Good idea. I'm sorry. Mr. Maney just brought up a point. Is there anybody from the audience who'd like to speak about the project, sir? Oh, okay. Come on up, sir.
I
Very
kinda
good. He
figured.
knew. Could I have your name and address for the record, please?
Peter Kurtenbach, 22 Osier Road. And we're the next door house down the hill. And I guess one thing I'm not, we're gonna be living beside it. I got no idea what that house is gonna be or look like, or I know we went from a duplex, I guess, to a single house now, but is it 1 story, 2 stories?
You have to come up to the mic. If you want to come to this mic, you can, so the recording can pick it up.
The Lozier Road home will be a 3-bedroom, 1-story ranch. It will look similar to the one we built recently on Hatacawana Terrace. However, it will not be on a basement. That lot is nice and level for us, so it will be a slab home.
Did you say it was gonna have a basement?
No, the one on Hatacawana Terrace did, because
Yeah.
the lot had a considerable
Yeah.
slope. On
Yeah,
Lozier
big-
Ave, will be on a, just on a slab.
I would have one more question that seemed to be lax in any information I got. Being it's on a hillside, and runoff is a big problem there. There was a retaining wall in there, a big rock wall that was removed. I read a little bit about on the construction that they were going to be Sunday starting to work on the retaining wall. What's that going to be, or?
Well, most of our runoff from the property will be handled by a series of 3 separate dry well tanks that will be buried in the front yard. They were actually inspected, I believe, this past week. There's a 1,000-gallon concrete tank and 2 600-gallon tanks, which both have stone leach fields around them. And that will all be underneath the front yard. So all the runoff from the roof and the roof leaders and all will be captured and infiltrated back into the ground to avoid sending any runoff from the roof or otherwise off the property. That large stone row that had been along the property line, kind of on your side of the property, will be replaced with a much smaller stone row that will be left along that side, approximately where the other one was. But we've removed a lot of the rock just to make more room for a front lawn.
Yeah, because I see from our lot where it is now, where they're just filling in this and that. My lower level windows are around 10 foot down. Now this is in about 20 foot. We better not have no runoff.
Right. The engineers who designed the project and designed the stormwater infiltration and all do work to a standard where the runoff after the project should be equal to or less than what was there prior. So I would, if you have any issues, please contact us. We'll have our engineers take a look at it. But I don't anticipate any. Like I said, that drainage was addressed during the design of the project.
I won't know till later, and I hope I don't have to find out that way.
We do warranty the house, and we actually hold the mortgages at 0% for our homeowners for 30 years. So We will be around for 30 years looking after that property.
Okay, thank you.
Jim got a
Yeah,
question.
Jim, Mr.
The,
Stazak?
the question of runoff, sir, when the Habitat for Humanity was in front of the planning board, they addressed that quite significantly and very well. So I can assure you, I was on the planning board at the time that it was addressed, runoff.
Also, you could go to the planning department, sir, and actually look at the plans and see in detail what it is, right to our planning and zoning department, and ask Mrs. Nataflusi to look at them so you can kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like when it's finished. They have all of the drawings, and it'll show you, sometimes it's hard to see in 2 dimensions what it's going to look like, but it'll give you maybe a better idea than just seeing it in bits and pieces now, so you get a better idea and see what this gentleman's talking about with the underground, with the dry wells and everything. That'll be all in the planning department.
I was going to say, those dry wells are open at the moment. I actually called today to find out if we passed, and I could fill them in. But as I said, feel free to take a look. They're visible at the moment, and anytime there's volunteers there.
I have no doubt that there was an exception. Just a couple years ago when we had that hurricane, Irene.
The plans are on site, so if we have volunteers
Things like
there,
that can happen. That's where the retake.
feel free to stop by and take a look. If the trailer's opened up and you see our trailers open and we're there, the plan sets are there, both the site plans and the building plans. So if you don't want to come down here, you can just stop by and take a look.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good. Anybody else have any questions? No, it's very good to come and ask the questions and find out what's going on. Better to know now than not know what to do later. Thank you. Alrighty, here we go. We have ordinances. Anybody have any question on our ordinance? Mr. Kenning?
I have Corporal Anthony from the Police Department for the Carson Delbar ordinance if council. wants
Okay,
to hear
great.
Good evening, members of the council. A few weeks back, on January 24th, the police department received a complaint, which the Traffic Bureau investigated. The complaint was twofold. One was some of the residents in the area were requesting a 3-way stop sign be placed at the intersection of Delbar and Carson. And the second area which they asked to address was the severe speeding problem on Carson leading to Sunset. People that are familiar with the area may or may not be aware that due to the fact that we have the school, Chester Stevens School, apparently we have 660 students on average every day at the school, approximately 130 staff members, and anywhere from 85 to 105 cars every day that are at the school. What we did is we went back and we reviewed all of our traffic statistics for the past 10 years that we have on file with the police department. We're currently making the recommendation, I believe this is the second reading of the ordinance, that we're proposing a installation of a yield sign on Carson Ave at the intersection of Delbar. That's what we're making the recommendation to do. The other area, the other thing which we're looking to do is a calming device of installation of speed tables on Carson Road. We're looking to have 3 speed tables installed on Carson Road.
I have a question, Eric.
Yes.
Obviously, well, I had the listing right there on the corner of Carson, Barbara Swayze's house.
Yes.
And sitting at open houses, the cars really speed down there even on a Sunday. And I'm sure that Carson Road had a lot more traffic once we put speed tables on Sunset. So what'll happen now if they turn around and go on Pershing? If they, because that Delbar to Carson was the best route, but now if that's speed tables,
Right, it's definitely something that we've looked at as the police department. We don't want to just continue to shift the problem from
Right.
Sunset, and now if we put them onto Carson, we don't want to have people utilizing Washington.
or Pershing.
Or Pershing to get through. What we're looking to do is we've identified 3 areas which we'd like to put the speed tables in on Carson. We would like to have 2 of them in between Pershing and Washington, and then another speed table between Washington and Sunset. I believe that placing them strategically in those 3 locations should help act as a calming device for basically any method of entry or exit from
Right.
Chester Stevens School.
So you're thinking it by putting them on Carson, then anybody who's whipping down Pershing or whipping down Washington, they're just going to be slowed down anyway when they get to Carson.
Eventually, they're going to be slowed down when they get to Carson, and it's something that we'll continue to examine as the police department, and if we do now receive complaints from either Pershing or Washington, then it's something that we can examine at that point.
Okay, great. Mr. Roman?
So basically, we're trying to address the overflow that was happened from putting the speed tables on Sunset, and we're putting speed tables on Carson. Was any thought put into removing the speed tables from Sunset that would just, maybe flow the traffic back to where it was? Was it worse before?
Yeah.
Is it worse now than it was before?
I believe that the speeding complaint has subsided with the installation of the speed tables that we installed on Sunset. We do have a directed patrol program that we currently utilize. We have officers out there as much as we can, performing selective enforcement for the speeding violations. It is something that, okay.
Wait my turn.
It is something that it acts as a calming device. I can't guarantee that if we take them out of Sunset, if the speeds are going to continue to remain at 25. By installing the speed tables, it forces people to slow down
Right.
to the 25. I'm sure that the only thing that I look at it from a traffic standpoint and through my engineering experience is that if we go and we install them on Sunset, it's just, I'm afraid that eventually more people throughout the town will start to ask, well, I'd like it on this residential street, and I'd like it on Kevin Drive, and so that is something that we have to address as a municipality. But I believe that is something that's going to effectively reduce the speeds that we're currently observing on Carson Drive at this point.
And is it, the administration signed off as far as, the plowing on there? Is that going to be, it's not going to be a problem, I assume?
No, I checked with Superintendent Tim Quinn. He did not feel there was a problem. I did want to know, the ordinance in front of us is solely on the yield sign.
Right.
We are not prepared to install the speed tables at this time. It's very early in the budget year. It was something that was not anticipated, so we're going to have to wait until any time frame between September and November to make sure that, that we're okay and we've accomplished our other goals for the year. So that it's going to be pushed off a little bit. But the immediate relief we're seeking is the yield sign at that intersection.
Mayor?
I'm not sure that I'm necessarily in favor of installing additional speed humps throughout the town. Something that I'm going to have to consider for many of the reasons raised by Officer Anthony in terms of it. I don't want to see a proliferation of speed humps throughout the town. If it is absolutely necessary, if we've exhausted all other avenues in terms of dealing with the speeding problem, then I think it's something that we need to address. But I'm concerned that every road in town is all of a sudden going to have a request for speed humps. And I can tell you that, on a weekly basis, I get 2 or 3 emails from different areas of town, whether it be Clover Hill Drive, Kevin Drive, just recently Tintz Road, the bottom part of Tintz Road.
I saw that, yeah.
So I think it's something that we need to examine further. I am in favor of the yield sign, and perhaps in favor of some further education effort on Carson Drive before we take what I consider to be a drastic position in terms of slowing traffic there.
Thank you, Mr. Nacastro. Then Mr. Stazak?
What about the using more of the solar speed limit sign, like we have down on Quarry Road? I think personally, I think they're a great deterrent with speed, because people do see those flashing. You either think someone's watching you, or you think they're going to get a ticket, and it forces you usually to slow down or pay attention. I don't know if that's some options to look at in these areas where we have issues, but I like
them.
those.
I'm not sure if we have them in this year's budget.
Right, I know it's an expense, but, yeah.
Do you know how much they cost?
About 5,000.
Mr. Stazak?
For one of those little signs?
Yeah, they're expensive. Mr.
What was the,
Stazak?
did we do a speed count? What was the average speed of?
We actually are working with DPW right now. Johnny Hope put out the speed.
The counters?
The counters just recently. We couldn't put them out earlier just because of the
Snow.
persistent snow that we've had.
Okay.
I want to say, as far as, Mr. Franti, you want to go and then I'll go?
Go ahead.
With speed tables, years ago, I was very much in favor of them. I figure it really slows people down, but over the years, the first thing that happened, we put them on Sunset. The first thing we had, the residents who first were concerned about the speed, then they came because of all the noise of the cars crashing over them in the middle of the night and landing and the sparks and all that other stuff. And then I'm sure all of us have noticed that speed tables, after a while, they start to chip, and then they got to be fixed, and that becomes a maintenance issue, a cost that comes into play constantly. And I know, I just don't understand, why can't people just slow down? I mean, their speed and their rush is costing us a lot of money, and I know it's a stupid question to ask, but that makes the most sense. First, you have people complaining about your taxes, then they go racing down the road. We put in speed tables that cost money, then we got to spend money to maintain them. It's a vicious cycle that's very problematic. And then also they can cause drainage issues if they're not placed just right, because that was the other thing we had on Sunset. The mayor's looking at me like,
I just thought that was about the most amazing comment I've ever heard, Colin. Why can't people just slow down?
why can't you just slow down? It's like, come on. But, you know, I have to tell you, when I was younger and a snowstorm would come, I'd be so excited because I'd love to see the snow. Now when I see snow, first thing I think about, oh my God, if it's a slow-moving storm, it's going to cost us so much more money. Then when I talk about speed bumps, I think about how much money they're going to cost us. And, you know, I think that maybe we should all be thinking in terms of the dollars, and it's a lot of money to do that.
Sean, can't that be, the speed bumps be done in-house?
They do them in-house,
Yeah,
but
do
they
it
have
in-house.
to be.
Each speed bump is approximately about $2,000 between
Yeah.
labor and material.
But John, before they put them in, they really have to have the engineer make sure that the way the pitch is gonna go, it's not going to, I'm only speaking from the experience on Sunset. We had the problem, do you remember that, Rob? We had to turn around and redo one of them, because it was creating a flooding issue, and Gene had to go out there and they had to move it. And, so,
It wasn't put in properly then.
just by a few inches, it wasn't much, but that's all it takes sometimes to create another issue. So, we have Mr. Franti?
Yeah, I'm actually a resident of the Pershing Estates, so I've probably spoken to the resident who filed this complaint. And I've seen it firsthand how the cars speed down Carson. You know, in my opinion, I'm all for the speed bumps. We have several bus stops throughout Pershing and Carson. I've always seen the speeding specifically, you know, when we had football practice late afternoon or early in the morning when you have the parents that are late to drive their kids to the school. You see them flying, and the school buses as well. They're just as fast through the neighborhoods. So I'd be all in favor of the speed bumps. We have a lot of walkers as well.
You do, you have a lot of walkers, but it's just, the best solution would be for everybody.
Well,
You see
But it's not
Alex,
gonna
on the
happen.
side, a lot of walkers.
Hey, the zombie apocalypse is coming.
And Officer Eric Anthony, I always want to make sure I got the name right. I usually reverse it on you. That was a very nice letter we got the other day. Thank you very much. There was an accident, and some people were very fortunate, and they sent a letter and particularly, well, applauded everyone and thanked everybody for their efforts, but really emphasized the kindness of Officer Anthony. And it's really nice when somebody takes the time to write the letter back, and I do thank you very much. That's absolutely wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Saying any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the time.
Should come with the slideshow.
Yeah. Alrighty, so now we're up to old business. Anybody have any old business? Okay, seeing none. New business. Anybody? I'll be public portion. 1 second, Pierre. Public portion now. Your turn.
Okay.
Come on up. Just please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Pierre Morin, 13 Shady Lane. A month ago, I went to City Hall to notify a man in charge of tree removal. There's a tree in front of my house, it's about 1.5 feet diameter, 75 foot tall. Katrina broke the base off. Mr. Mayor, here's the pictures of it. It uprooted the base of it. It's leaning on my house. I was told it was going to be taken care of. It's been a month, nothing's been done. And I'm afraid if it goes, it hit Shady Lane right across into my house. Lakeview and Glen Avenue, which is partially done. The other one is inhabited, which is part of City Hall. It's a paper road that goes from one house all the way to my street. The tree is right in the middle of it, and it's leaning about 5 degrees. It's been tagged for a month, about 4 foot from the ground, with a yellow and a red flag. I was told I'd been taking care of it, and the tree is still standing. I'm still worried that it goes down, it will cut across the street. You had the pictures of it and everything else.
I see, it's first I've known of it, we'll look into it, is it?
The guy in charge of the tree removal said he'll take care of it.
I understand, but now you brought it to my attention, and it will.
That's
get
the purpose of it.
It will get taken, it's first that I've known of it, and as people know, I'm very responsive to this kind of stuff, and if it's our responsibility, which it sounds like from what you're telling me, it's already been
This is the
determined.
basis.
It's, from what you're telling me, it's already been determined that it's our responsibility.
Yeah.
We don't take down trees that are not our responsibility,
I
you
know.
understand that?
I know
So
that.
assuming that this is our responsibility, it will get taken care of immediately.
Yeah, something that can be done easy.
It's.
I used
it
to
will
be.
It will be taken care of
Let
immediately.
me say
and it-
something a
yeah.
second. I used to be a tree man and remove it, and somebody could come in with a tree professional, yeah, where it's cut off, broken off, notch it. It's only a 5-degree incline
Yeah,
with a big cable, can pull it out into the open.
it's,
1, 2, 3.
I appreciate that. Like I said, I'm on top of it now. This is the first I've known about it. You can call me directly if it's not taken care of this week.
I'll be working back my wood pile.
Yeah,
Pierre,
Working on my wood for next winter.
Pierre, he'll take care of it. How's Marie?
Very good.
Good.
Still
Oh.
we've got to pick up a trees. We're rational. We know what it is.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you know
Yeah.
who you spoke to? Do you know the name of the individual?
I don't remember.
Was it the Department of Public Works?
No, yeah, we take care of the tree removal.
We don't,
So you're a young fellow, about 35 years old.
brownish hair?
I think so.
Is he wearing a white shirt?
I don't remember.
Not that day.
I don't remember.
I'm telling you that by next Wednesday, it will be taken care of,
Okay, thank you.
okay? As long as it's our responsibility, that's the one thing I can.
Most of them are afraid to go across.
I got you.
Hello,
Hi, your name and address, please, for the record?
Melissa Verone, 6 Jeffrey Court, Flanders.
Could you put it a little closer? Thank you.
Melissa Verone, 6 Jeffrey Court, Flanders.
Okay.
I actually have 2 things I want to talk about tonight. The first one being, I wanted to see if we could address maybe getting a crossing guard at the high school for the kids that are coming from Patlin. I know there's been some, with the accident and everything that happened. Recently, I had the opportunity to drive my son to school for a couple of days because my oldest daughter was out sick. Actually, she was out for 3 weeks with mono, so I drove my son because he refused to walk in the morning. And my husband and I purposely bought that house in that area because both of us were walkers at the high school when we were young. But that area there is, it has not been corrected. And as much as I think it does slow people down, the signs, the area to cross, it's very difficult to see. I'm coming from, say, Tins Road area. And when I come up and over the hill a little bit, there's no problem, everybody's slow. But there's
When it starts to curve?
the house on the right there, he's got like a little gazebo, he's got some bushes and stuff, and some of the kids, when they come walking, you don't really see them until they get into that intersection, and none of the kids are stopping. And quite frankly, a lot of the adults are not stopping. I actually, one of the boys was walking across the street, I stayed far back, I let him go, but I tell you, the people coming from the other direction weren't stopping for him to cross the second time. So I don't think it's been addressed properly. I have another child that will be walking in a couple years, and I want it to be safe. So I hope that you guys could consider trying to get somebody to come and monitor that. It's really not that long of a period of time. It's probably maybe 20 minutes in the morning, half an hour at best, and then at the end of the day, just let the kids cross the street safely. That's all I'm really trying to get at, because it's not safe the way it is right now.
I think when they first made the, the new area there with the signs enough, I think, Mr. Kenny, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think for a while we were having an officer there just to kind of watch what was going on, but if they get called off to another emergency, they were leaving. It wasn't like they were stationed there every morning?
It's not true.
That wasn't true? Somebody had said that in the beginning.
No, actually, I requested the police department to put somebody there immediately after the accident for the couple of days.
Okay.
And then, once we put in the improvements that we did, I don't believe that there was ever a police officer that was stationed there.
Okay.
But during those.
Well, no,
I think
not
it was
not
2 days,
station- yeah.
It was a Thursday and a Friday after the accident. If the accident happened on a Wednesday. But I can tell you that they looked at that intersection. The police department obviously are the experts that we rely upon in terms of making determinations as to where we're going to staff the resources that we have. And my recollection is that the police department felt that putting a crossing guard at that intersection would not make it any safer. You have to recognize that crossing guards do not direct traffic. They simply stop traffic. And the accident that had occurred, it was clear that a crossing guard or the absence thereof had nothing to do with that particular accident. If there had been a crossing guard at that intersection at that time before we moved the crosswalk to, I guess it's the southerly side of the intersection, the crossing guard would have been hit along with the 2 students who were hit. Because it was a sun glare issue, it didn't matter who was out in the middle of the street. But notwithstanding, I will refer it back to the police department to get a recommendation from them as to whether or not they believe that the amount of students that cross there and whether or not a crossing guard is a viable solution to correct those problems. We will get a recommendation from the police department, and then we'll pick up this discussion again. You may not agree, or you may agree, and the police department may come back and say, yes, they agree that that's an appropriate spot. But we'll send it back to them. Officer Anthony, you can pick that up and bring it back to the police department. I'll have Sean send something, and we'll continue the discussion after we get a recommendation from the police department.
Okay, because I did speak to Chief Spitzer about it, and I know that they're going to be making the traffic pattern, they're going to change the traffic pattern. Now, they haven't done it yet. He thought it would be done by now, and it isn't done, where you will only be able to make a left, a right out of that parking lot, so that you can't, those are going to stop people from making a left out of that parking lot.
One of the turning.
Which I think is fantastic.
Yeah,
I absolutely think that's a great idea. But the problem is the kids in the afternoon when they're leaving, and I know, because I know this from my experience with my kids, there's going to be a couple kids calling like in May or April, wanting to park at my house because they don't want to take the bus anymore. They live in Bud Lake and they want to drive their car that their parents got them. So they're going to ask if they can come park in my driveway, which has happened before, so they can walk with my son. Then, now we have more kids that are coming and crossing the street towards the end of the year. And, it's not just a couple kids that live in the neighborhood. It's more than just a few kids. And at the end of the day, none of them are crossing on the right side. They're not crossing where they're supposed to be, so that's all. But I appreciate,
We can only do so much, as you know. Kids are going to be kids.
Absolutely.
We recognize the fact, and I have a kid who's going to be driving in the fall or spring as well, who's going to be looking for some place to park his car, so he may be parking in your driveway.
No, I just
But
thought if maybe we
we'll
can
take a
look
at
into
the
it
issue.
again.
When we had originally looked at the issue, it was very interesting, because we had talked about potentially not letting anyone turn out of that front entrance, that it was only going to be taking away 2 of the different turning mechanisms that are at that, because it's a bad spot, there's no question about it. And we were going to direct traffic out the backside. But if you think about that, what you're actually doing is taking a vast amount of traffic by doing that and putting it through all of the parking lots where the kids ultimately park. You're actually creating a greater problem by directing the traffic through the high school, because now you have all the kids crossing from the parking lots to the school.
Right, but all the kids park in the front for the most part. There's faculty parks in the back.
You have kids parking back there as well.
Are there?
Yeah,
Okay.
in some of the lots.
Okay, maybe the kids, when they get their license midway, juniors, late juniors and stuff.
We had looked at that as a potential.
Right.
But again, we'll refer it back to the police department, and we'll get a recommendation, and I'll make sure that it gets to you.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Leave your name and number with Lisa Lashway, so she can contact you, or with Sean, actually. Sean is the
Okay.
best place to leave it.
Okay.
And we'll pick it up again.
All right, great, thank you.
And you
Now, I
said-
have one other
Yep,
thing.
yeah.
All right, the other thing I wanted to talk about was trying to reopen Flanders Neckong Road to get us into the trade zone area. I wanted to see if there could be a new study done on this. That road's been closed for years. I don't necessarily know why it's been closed, but is it still warranted for that road to be closed? Because I don't necessarily think it affects a ton of people, just a few of us that may live in that area, maybe us in Kevin Drive, like our area, Kevin Drive. You know, there's so many accidents on 206. I don't know if you were talking about the one at ITC the other day, the corner of 206 and ITC. I mean, you know, from where I live, I don't have to go on 206. And before the ITC was in, I never took Drakesdale Road down to 206 because there was no light there. So I would cut through Flanders Netcong Road, get down to Gold Mine, and make a left out of there, and that's how I used to get out. I have kids driving. My daughter goes to Panera all the time. I would be thrilled that she could take that back road to Panera versus taking going down to Drakesdale's Road and making a left onto 206.
I agree with you 100%. We had this big, long discussion a few months ago. I actually went out and I measured the miles on how far it takes to go all the way around. I feel that it's irresponsible for us to be directing our local traffic onto 206. That's already a very busy road, and we should, and Mayor wants to speak too, and we should be opening that road. However, we'll let the mayor speak on that.
I don't agree with Ms. Lebow, and I do believe from a planning perspective, it is bad planning to take people from a main road and put them onto a local road. I can tell you that I live in Flanders Crossing, and if that road were open, I would use it every day. I would use it, and so would everybody else when they found it. It's been closed now for about 12 years. And the reason that it was closed originally was because when the shopping center came in, everyone thought it would be a direct passage to the shopping center, which it would have been. And we do open it when there are accidents on 206 or in bad weather situations. When we deem that it's appropriate to have it open, we do open it. Mostly for the benefit of the residents who are on top of the hill. Most of them are either on Flanders Netcong Road or one of the developments off of Flanders Netcong Road. But I don't believe that it's appropriate to open that road in any way.
But why? What I don't understand is why.
Because you don't want to take traffic that's on a main road and put it through a local road.
You mean you would go from your house and cut up?
Coming down 206 every day, when I come down 206, I would make a right turn on Gold Mine, I would make a left on Flanders Netcong, and take that down through past the tennis courts, down the hill, cut across 206 again. In fact, that's what I used to do.
From getting from your house to where?
From 206,
right,
in Netcong,
right,
shopping center, to my house in Flanders.
You wouldn't just take 206 all the way home?
I wouldn't.
Well, but I'm not sure I understand that.
Because I would try and avoid the traffic on Route 206.
Because 206 is bad over there.
206 is always going to be bad, whether you open Flanders Netcong Road or if you don't open Flanders Netcong Road. It is just a very busy, traveled road that has intersections which are going to become more crowded. What you're doing is taking part of the problem off 206 and you're putting it at different intersections. You're now going to have a backup at the Exxon station coming down the light, and you're going to have a backup at Old Mill at both of those intersections. Plus, you're going to be taking traffic that otherwise would be on a main road, and you're going to put it through neighborhoods. And you're going to have the exact same problems. You're going to have a speeding problem on Flanders Netcong Road, which is a narrow road, albeit it's wide enough that you could have the traffic, but you're really just moving the problem from one spot to another. Officer Anthony is here. He could address that issue. Is there anything that I said that's inaccurate? Yeah, please.
I would agree with Mr. Mayor on the issue. The reason I say that is because I don't believe that roadway, the way that you have curves in the roadway, that's going to present a problem. Additionally, if we take a lot of vehicular traffic off of a state highway, which is designed to handle thousands of cars per hour, and reroute them on to a municipal roadway, I don't believe that the infrastructure that's currently in place is going to be suitable for that roadway. It's not going to be good, and just as the mayor indicated, what we're doing then is we're shifting the people that are traveling at 50 miles an hour, 55 miles an hour on a state highway, which already is in excess of the posted speed. We're going to move them onto a municipal road where we're asking them now to travel at 35 miles an hour or 30 miles an hour. If people are going to use it as a cut-through, they're going to want to exceed the speed limit, and we're basically going to pull the speeding problem onto our road.
Okay, but isn't that a 40-mile-an-hour road, that road?
You may be correct.
It- that-
I don't have the
I
exact.
mean, honestly, I know it's a 40-mile-an-hour road. I traveled it the whole time after we had bad weather, because it was open for like a month, and it was fantastic to be able to get through. Now, I will tell you, I'm not looking for this to go shopping, okay? I'm not looking for it to be a cut-through so I can get to the stores faster. I'm looking for it, safety-wise, I have 4 kids. 2 of them drive right now. Third one's gonna drive in another month. You know, I would feel much safer from my house to have them go and make a left by the tennis club, and they'll be right there in the trade zone. It's a lot. I don't think there's as many people affected by it as you think. I mean, maybe, for example, if your wife was coming from the shopping center, she may want to opt to go that way because it's a safer route. It's safer. It's a 40-mile-an-hour road. It shouldn't be closed.
Planning, the issue with respect to street planning, and I'm certainly not an expert, but I did sit on the planning board for a long time, and I do have some knowledge, is to direct the traffic onto the main highways as quickly and conveniently as possible. And that's what Route 206 is designed for, as Officer Anthony indicated. And I don't believe, look, we could sit here and argue this until the sun comes back up tomorrow, because it's probably been argued 5 or 6 times already. And when you start talking about opening up that road, there is a vast majority of people who are opposed to opening up that road, more so than the people who come out in favor of opening up the road. And I can tell you that the traffic in front of Carlton is going to increase significantly. It's going to make it very difficult to make turns anywhere in that area. The reason that you haven't seen a lot of traffic is that a lot of people don't know when that road is open. If people knew that that road was open, you would start getting a regular flow of traffic on that road, and it would make the areas around the tennis club, and as I said, the 2 intersections which are most closely affected, and that would be Drakesdale Road and Flanders, whatever that is, Flanders Netcon?
Yeah.
Right, the Old Mill Road. Those intersections would become incredibly bad.
Well,
In terms of, you'd have to sit at that light, probably 4 or 5 lights to get out of there during rush hour.
Well, just try to understand what I'm trying to say here, because, well, for example, from my house, I live by the high school, okay? So if I want to go to ShopRite, I go Old Tins Road, and I take the back way. You know why? Because I want to avoid 206. I want to avoid 206 as much as possible. I don't like being on Route 46 for that matter either. And that being said, the CVS that opened, you know, you go down Mount Olive Road, you get, I don't even know what the turn is by.
Woods Edge.
Okay,
Woods
you
Edge.
make the left there, and those people have to be not very thrilled that CVS is right there, because they have to be getting more traffic in that area because of just CVS alone, because now I know where that road is. I never even drove that road in the 15 years I've lived here, or 16 years. I've driven it more since CVS opened than I have in the 16 years I lived here.
That was always commercial, though. You had Sandy's Liquor there, and you had the Ace Hardware, so it wasn't a change in use.
Yeah, there was,
And now you have a roadway which has been closed for the better part of 12 years. It is defined now as a residential neighborhood.
Well, can there be a new study done? Can it be looked at again? Can something be done about it, other than just the fact that, you know what, no, there's nothing can be done, and
I think
you know, you're out of luck.
the ideal situation would be if there was some way that we could make the road to be used just for our residents and not use it as a cut-through, but that's like impossible to do. Because I understand what you're saying 100%. It's like, we want our people who are right there to be able to get safely to the mall or wherever, but unfortunately, as the mayor said, you're going to have everybody else on Route 206 who don't live up there cutting through and speeding and trying to get through, and it does create traffic in other areas. So it's unfortunate we can't just have it just for us and, you know, tell everybody else, forget it, you can't go there. But I have Mr. Mania and Mr. Roman wanted to say something.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but my recollection was that because of the transfer station, that the garbage trucks would be using that to get to the transfer station. And the residents on Flanders Netcon Road were upset of the heavy truck traffic that could possibly be generated because of the transfer station. Am I correct?
That's easy. I don't remember what the justification was. You know, I wasn't on the planning board at the time that came through. Maybe you were, John.
I was.
Yeah. But that's easy enough dealt with in terms of weight restrictions on the roads.
Sure.
And
Weight limitations.
Patillo already comes down the road almost to Drakesbrook Park as is with his equipment. It's really just, it doesn't, one might think that it makes it safer, But from a planning perspective, and John, you have to understand this, and Jim, you have to understand this, that what planners try and do is funnel the traffic through as little residential area to the main highways. That's what planning does with the roadway
You're
system.
absolutely correct.
So it's anti, whether it's right or wrong, it's anti-planning in terms of the way that you're supposed to have traffic flow. And certainly, first of all, I don't know that it could be open to start with, because the part of the road was actually deeded away. And that was always a question that I didn't know the answer, but I'm not in favor of it anyway. So I don't even know, to address Ms. Barone's question, whether or not it's something that council wants to consider. It's not something that I would be in favor of, and I would, to the extent that a veto were available, that is something that I would veto, because I just don't think it's a good idea. And I do understand the inconvenience that it does cause to certain people, and the convenience that it causes for certain.
Yeah, but I think like what she's saying, it's the inconvenience, yes, but it is a safety factor. But then, like you said, you create a safety factor on the other side, so it's almost
never
like.
safer to take cars through a residential
Exactly.
area than put them in.
But what she's saying,
But it's 40 mile an hour
yeah,
road.
if she's
It's not
saying if you're
25.
already there, you're already a resident, it's safer than going on the highway, but it's not going to stay like that. You're going to have people who.
You just can't have the residents.
Yeah, I know, you can't just have residents. Mr. Roman?
Mr. Varone, earlier in your testimony, you were complaining about the speed on Corey Road and then the danger of which, and you were applauding, I guess. I'm assuming you were in favor of lowering the speed limit on it to reduce the amount of traffic?
Honestly, I didn't have any opinion on that.
But I'm assuming you benefited at least from the speed limit being lowered, and you found that beneficial, I assume.
Oh, yes, for the kids.
So,
yes.
you would be doing the same thing to those
God bless you.
people on Flanders Neckon Road by now increasing traffic through their neighborhood, and I'm sure that would be something that you'd be opposed to if it were done on Corey Road.
It's not the same. Corey Road is not the same as Flanders Neckon Road.
You're
There's so many
increasing-
cars
you're
that
gonna
go
be
down Corey
increasing the
Road.
traffic. You're going to be increasing the traffic in a residential neighborhood.
But it's not a
and
neighborhood, it's a street. It's a street that should never have been closed to begin with. It's not a residential neighborhood. There's residential neighborhood on the sides now, but
and I
that was not a
disagree-
residential neighborhood when that road was closed.
And I
There were
disagree
houses.
wholeheartedly with your assertion that it should never have been closed. I mean, that would be an opinion, and it's my opinion that that it should not, more traffic should not be added on. One of the things that in making a decision, at least for my part, whenever we decide to either improve the safety or change any kind of patterns, is am I going to harm people in that neighborhood? Now, in order to make it easier for somebody to go to the shopping mall, and I have a daughter that's about to drive too, and it scares me to all hell to know that she'll be going on 206 and all that, but she eventually will have to, and everybody else will have to, and I do not want to endanger or increase the traffic in somebody's residential neighborhood so that I or my daughter or anybody else can be convenienced so that they can go shopping.
Oh, you're missing the point, though. It's not about going shopping, and that's not it at all. It's for convenience if you want to get to that area. I go shopping there all the time. I have to take 206. Well, I don't go all the time, but I go to the bank. That's what I actually go to that area for. So when I go there, it would be more convenient to go. It would be safer for me to go on that Flanders Neckon Road than it would be for me to go on 206. That's my point. It has nothing to do with, I don't understand. I understand why it was closed to begin with, because they were building that complex that we love, that I do use. But it should never have been closed permanently. That's my point.
Mr. Stazak?
One last thing. My take on this is local roads are for local people. If we open that road, it's not going to be a local road anymore. And you're going to start drawing people from outside the neighborhoods you want to draw people from. And it's not going to be a local road anymore. That's what 206 is for, and I got to agree with the mayor. 206 is designed to get people to that shopping center. That's the avenue of egress that it was created for. That road wasn't created for that shopping center. 206 was.
Okay. I understand your point on that, but I do think that the majority of people that would use it would be the people that are in the area where I live, and maybe some people,
Where I live and where the mayor lives and everybody around us.
I would prefer to have that road open personally.
Okay, there's nothing that can be done to get it open, is basically
We
it.
tried last year, and it was...
Shut down.
Yeah, it was shut down. It was a no-go. The room was packed, the residents who... And I do disagree, though. It is a residential street. There's not a lot of houses on there, but I do consider that a residential street. There are quite a few homes after you get past Drakebrook Park, and you had 3 sections of development with new homes going in there. So that I would consider that a residential street. But yeah, the room was packed. They were really super upset. Even the people who were in the developments in Marsh Hutton, so on and so forth, even though they wouldn't be directly impacted with cars driving by, they were upset about it too. So they were really...
But they never had the ability to use that road.
They actually did a few times when the gate was open, but unfortunately, there's no way we can allow just our local residents to keep them off the highway without having people on the highway coming up and using it, and that's the conundrum there.
Yeah, well, they do have the gate. They have the gate and they have the lock on it, but they don't have the lock on. So somebody can go and pull the lock off, open the gate, go
There's a guy
through.
at the end of the street there that polices that all the time, and
Yeah.
when that gate gets open, we hear about it right away.
Okay.
But they have to be able to get to that gate easily for the ambulance, if the ambulance has to get through.
Well, if there's ever any emergency, because, buses too, for that matter. I mean, just anything getting through there, for any kind of emergency. So,
I know, if it was all up to us, personal preference, it's definitely more convenient, but unfortunately, it, doesn't serve the other purpose. Creates more of a traffic issue.
okay. No,
Anything
thank
else? Oh, thank you. Anyone else from the public? Seeing none? Can I have a motion to,
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Okay, we're done with our workshop, and we are moving right along to our public meeting. Township Council public meeting for April 2nd, 2013. And Mrs. Lashway, could you please read the Open Publics Meeting Act announcement?
According to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Daily Record. Notice has been posted in the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, and notices were sent to those requesting the same.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Frente?
Here.
Mr. Nacastro?
Here.
Mr. Perkins?
Here.
Mr. Roman?
Here.
Mr. Stazak?
Here.
Mr. Mania?
Here.
Mrs. Laybow?
Here. We already did the Pledge of Allegiance during our workshop. And for approval of our previous minutes, Mr. Franti, would you please move February 23rd, 2013 budget hearing? Mr. Mania was absent. March 5th, 2013 executive session. March 5th, 2013 workshop and public meeting. March 19th, 2013 public meeting. Also, public hearing on 2013. Oh, that's going to be our next thing. Sorry. I'm busy reading. Would you please move those, Mr.
I move for the
Franti?
approval of the February 23rd, 2013 budget hearing, the March 5th, 2013 executive session, March 5th, 2013 workshop and public meeting, and March 19th, 2013 public meeting.
Second.
Second. Any questions, concerns? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Frente?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Stazak?
Staying on the February 23rd budget hearing meetings, I wasn't present, and yes on the other 3.
Mr. Mania?
Abstain on February 23rd, yes on March 5th and the 19th.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes on all. All right, next we have our public hearing on our 2013 budget. It's all yours, Gary. We have our auditor here this evening.
Yes, good evening,
Mr. Gary
everyone.
Higgins?
Your budget was subject to self-exam this year, and which means basically the Division of Local Government didn't review it, but you previously passed a resolution that it complies with all the various budget rules and regulations. So it's appropriate tonight to have a public hearing, and subsequent to that, pass and adopt the budget if you wish, and the same for the solid waste budget.
Any questions from the council? Yeah, I'm going to open up. Do I open up to the public first or council first? Alex has a question.
You should
Mr. Roman?
Gary, could you tell us what our municipal rate and what the average increase will be with this budget?
If anyone has the budget document, the 2012 tax rate for municipal purposes only was .59 or 59 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. The estimated 2013 municipal tax rate is 60.8 cents, or an increase of 1.8 cents. In simplistic terms, for every $100,000 of assessed value, that's an $18 increase. So depending on your assessed value, you can figure it out. What's your average home? 315 was the average home, so I think we're a little under $60 was the effect on an average home, and that's for municipal purposes only.
Okay, thank you.
Any other council? I'd like to open it to the public. Anyone from the public have any questions? No? All right. Seeing, anybody else? No? Seeing none? We're going to take a vote on this one, right?
Close it to the public.
Going to close the budget hearing to the public, and
Resolution number 4.
we're going to vote on resolution number 4. Can we do 4, 5, and 6 together, or do we have to be? Okay. We're going to do them separately, so I'd like to, Mr. Perkins, would you please move resolution 4?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any other questions, concerns? Roll call, please.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Stazak?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes. Mr. Stazak, would you please move resolution number 5?
Move resolution number 5.
Second.
Second. Any questions? Seeing none? Roll call, please.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Stazak?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes. And Mr. Maney, would you please move resolution number 6?
Madam Chair, I move resolution number 6.
Second.
Any questions, concerns? Seeing none? Roll call, please.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Stazak?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes. Is number 3 part of the budget too, because it's with the waste management that could be done
No,
with
it's
it?
just an amended resolution, it's not part of the budget.
Okay, very good. Okay, we're all set with the budget. Mr. Higgins, you're welcome to stay.
No.
If you'd
I
like.
don't think he's gonna stay.
We're all done with that part, and thank you very much for being here.
Pleasure, always a pleasure.
Very good.
For us too.
Yeah, it's always good to see you. The next items on our agenda, we have 51 pieces of correspondence. And if anybody have any questions, concerns, comments about any of our correspondence? Okay, seeing none. We are on to page 5 of the agenda. And we have our ordinances for public hearing. Second reading. We have, I open a hearing to the public on ordinance number 3-2013 entitled, Ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Mount Olive amending Chapter 48, Article 1, Section 48-14 of the Code of the Township of Mount Olive to establish the position of Class 2 Special Law Enforcement Officer. Mr. Nacastro, would you please?
Yes, thank you.
that?
I move for adoption and final passage of ordinance number 3-2013.
Second.
Second? Oh,
Mr. Perkins?
Ray. Ray seconded.
oh.
Gonna beat you this time, John?
Mr. Perkins seconded?
Yes, ma'am.
Open to the public. Anybody from the public have any comments, concerns? Seeing none. Anybody from council? Okay, seeing none. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Stazak?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes. Ordinance number 3-2013 is passed on second reading, and I hereby direct the clerk to forward a copy of the same to the mayor and publish a notice of adoption as required by law. Alrighty. I open the hearing to the public on ordinance number 4-2013, bond ordinance providing for improvements to Dan Jordan Field in and by the Township of Mount Olive in the County of Morris, New Jersey, appropriating $36,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of 34,200 bonds or notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof. Mr. Perkins, would you please move that?
Yes, Madam President, I move for adoption and final passage of ordinance number 4-2013.
Second.
Any discussion from the public? Seeing none. Any council comments? Seeing none. Roll call, please.
Mr. Frente?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Stazak?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes. Ordinance number 4-2013 is passed on second reading, and I hereby direct the clerk to forward a copy of the same to the mayor and publish the notice of adoption as required by law. Alrighty, we're on to our ordinances for first reading. The second reading will be on April 16, 2013. And we have ordinance number 13-2013 entitled An Ordinance of the Township of Mount Olive in the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, providing for the installation of a yield sign at the intersection of Carson Road and Delbar Road, to be incorporated into Chapter 245 of the Mount Olive Township Code. Mr. Roman, would you please move that?
I move that ordinance number 13-2013 be introduced by title and passed on first reading, and that a meeting be held on April 16, 2013, at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, for a public hearing, consideration of second reading, and passage of said ordinance, and that the clerk be directed to publish, post, and make available said ordinance in accordance with the requirements of law.
Second it.
Very good. Any council discussion? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Frente?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Stazak?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes. Alrighty, we're on to consent resolutions. We have 1, 2, and 3. And could we have Mr. Stazak move 1, 2, and 3, please?
I move consent resolutions 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any
I have
discussion?
a question.
Yes, Mr. Mania?
Mr. Canning, the contract that was awarded to the Vaso Waste Systems for the new trucks,
Yes.
is that going to be diesel or natural gas?
It's going to be diesel, Councilman. I looked into the natural gas at your request, and Jimmy Lynch here, I'd asked him to look into it. We operate under two possible concepts, which I've spoken to you about. One, do we outsource into a private fuel depot, such as, Blue Diamond, or do a shared service or something like that? That, we looked into it, first looked promising, but it's kind of prohibitive because of the distance traveled to get a natural gas refueling. The other one is to get a natural gas line into the township here. We would be able to have a natural gas depot to service our trucks. It looks like it'd be cost prohibitive. Contact with New Jersey Natural Gas, they did not seem receptive into running that line up here unless we paid for it, and it would be substantial. In the long run, I agree with you, I'd like to have a natural gas fleet. It just seems to be an infrastructure can be problematic.
I was just looking for a savings with the natural gas versus the diesel.
I agree with you.
Blue Diamond's bought, I think, 40 or 50 trucks in their natural gas, and they saved a tremendous amount of money
Again,
versus
the problem
the
is
diesel.
infrastructure. For us, it's infrastructure. If I had the infrastructure.
Just a thought to see if we could save some bucks.
Philosophically, I agree with you. If we can get the infrastructure, now it's not to say down the road, we could look into a conversion if the infrastructure was at some point to become available. But at this point, at this location, it's a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, concerns? Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Frente?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Stazak?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes. Mr. Meany, would you please move the bill list?
Madam Chair, I move the bill list.
Second.
Have you ever noticed, Mr. Meany, if you move something, nobody says, they don't race to try and beat me?
They can't beat me, that's why.
That's what it is.
I figured he was going to second his own motion.
It's like you wait, and you wait, and you wait. It's
I have to
like,
make a motion second.
They're waiting
it's
to
like,
see
get
what
on
I'm
marks,
gonna do.
get set, go.
Yep.
Too bad you can't introduce and second it.
He tried.
He
There you
tried.
go. Can I have roll call, please?
Mr. Frente?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Stazak?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes. Administrative reports, Mr. Canning.
Surprisingly, I have nothing tonight.
Ah,
I am tongue-tied.
ah. I'm shocked. Where's the mayor? I'm
Move it
telling.
along.
He's left.
He left. He deserted us. Alrighty, old business, anyone have old business? Okay, seeing none, new business. Alrighty, the legal matters.
Thank you, Madam President. Just one item tonight. Earlier in the year, the township authorized our office to file a condemnation action against Cobblestone Healthcare Facility. And I'm happy to report that last week the court entered an order granting final judgment in favor of the township and against the defendant, that the township was authorized to and did duly exercise its power of eminent domain. The court's order also appointed 3 commissioners who have been given the duty of examining the land and fixing the amount of just compensation to be paid for the taking. And the commissioners shall determine the fair market value of the subject property pursuant to the order and shall file their report with the Superior Court on or before July 29, 2013.
Very good.
It's good news.
I happened to be on Lehigh the other day and just started glancing over Cobblestone from a different angle because you've seen it from the other way. I can't believe how huge that place is.
Oh, it is.
It's huge. Absolutely huge.
We used to
and
go
it's all
there
falling
for the
down.
birthdays of the residents and bring cake and.
But I'd never seen
Yeah, it's a
how.
big place.
Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just like to, again, comment that it's never happy. It's never a glad moment to enforce eminent domain. I know myself and I believe the entire council was hopeful that unfortunately, that was the last resort for us to be able to secure the money so that COA and the state did not get their greedy little hands on it. I assume and hope that the fair market value will be at least the same. Not saying I don't want it to be more, because I really don't, but at least that the owners be compensated for the fair market value of the land, and that somewhere along the line the plans can get finalized through our planning department and we can meet part of our COA obligation. Thanks, Joe. Thank you, Madam President.
Any other questions, concerns? Seeing none, any other legal matters?
That's it for tonight, Madam.
Thank you. And I just want, Jeff, how do you say your last name?
Pasek.
Pasek. Everybody, this is Jeff Pasek from Semro Dorsey's office, and he's joining us this evening, and many times more, I'm sure, and we welcome you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Alrighty, any questions for Mr. Pasek? Jeff? No? Alrighty, we're on to council reports, and we're gonna start with Mr. Ferranti. If you could go through and give us all your reports.
Sure. I have nothing for Environmental Committee. The Lake Committee, the Bud Lake Association met last, or 2 weeks ago. Dave Toom officially has resigned as of March 21st, and he will be retiring to the Carolinas. Actually, no, to Virginia.
Virginia.
Yep. Joe Pointick has been named the president of the association now, and they do have May 18th scheduled for their lake cleanup. The library board meets next week. This past weekend I attended the spring fling and Easter egg hunt. They had a nice turnout. And that's all for today.
Alrighty, we're going alphabetically. Mr. Mania.
Okay, planning board, I attended my meeting, and there wasn't much going on. In fact, Rob and I had to leave. We couldn't be part of the session, but they tell me that they hope future we're gonna get busy, hopefully. Senior citizen, both Sean and I attended the senior citizen meeting, and there was a lady there, Judy Johnson, who said they're gonna have a bus trip to Washington DC for veterans of World War II and Korea.
And Judy's with Jividon.
Pardon?
Judy works with Jividon?
Yeah. And both Ray and I were at a meeting, a Republican Club meeting, and we agreed to be sponsors to veterans. We need some more details, but we're gonna both sponsor a veteran and go to Washington. I believe it's June 1st. It's a Saturday, early in the morning till late at night.
Very nice. You're getting more information from Judy?
We'll wait for more information, where we get the bus, and I think both Ray and I our concern is who we sponsor, whether they're wheelchair bound or whatever. We need to kind of know these
Plan,
things.
yeah. Very good. Let's see. we're on to Mr. Nicastro.
Yes, Open Space is meeting on the 8th, and Safety Committee, nothing yet, waiting on the next meeting.
Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Madam President. Board of Health, the previous meeting, we briefly opened up discussion asking the board to review what now would be the defibrillator ordinance that Dr. Ken Ross had brought up during the 2012 calendar year. We have Mr. King presented all of us with a draft ordinance. We ask that the board members kindly review that, comment on it. There's just a whole cornucopia worth of things that we need to consider. Who's going to train, who's going to administer, who's going to supervise. And then ironically enough, I had seen on the news just this past week that they're having major issues because there's really nobody inspecting these things. So they're sitting there, and a lot of times they're coming, and when it's that critical moment to use it, they're finding out that the battery wasn't charged. So there are, and that was on, I believe that was on Fox or CNN. I can't remember which channel. I try to spread around a little bit there. So the board will be looking into that before it gets pushed, Madam President, and we'll keep the council well informed of how that moves. I understand that Gold's Gym already has one, which is to their credit. So we're really kind of looking at where do you make it a population, where's the cutoff? Is it 100 people that'll be in attendance, 200 people that are in attendance that you would have to have this? So, you know, we don't want to go blatantly across and asking people to spend the money and put these things in unless it's absolutely necessary in the use of life-saving. The nothing to report on the Legislative Committee and nothing on the Economic Development Committee.
Thank you. Mr. Roman.
I have nothing to report on Board of Ed. On Recreation, opening day for baseball, softball will be Saturday, April 13th. Parade will be commencing at 9:30 from CMS. And as customary, we will be throwing out, we are invited to throw out ceremonial first pitches.
That's at 9:30, Alex, you said?
Yeah, 9:30.
April 13th.
April 13th, starting at CMS parking lot. For those of us that have not thrown in a while, I recommend practice, a little Bengay, some Tylenol.
CMS?
It just looks silly.
So,
Did you say CC Sabathia was going to be there?
no.
No?
His cousin, Dee.
Okay.
And then the
BC.
and just a reminder, April 20th will be our 5K, 10K. I will be participating, hopefully finishing the 5K, and I encourage more of my fellow council members to at least participate in one of the events. There is the walking event.
I signed up for the Lollipop Loop.
And you said that out loud.
Yes, I did. I was going to try for the 1 mile, and I decided the Lollipop was more my speed.
So what
Hey,
do
you know
do,
what?
just
Something
lick
is
a
better than
lollipop
nothing.
and
I
that's
don't
it?
know. I think it's a shorter walk, and
Oh, I think
you know,
just lick the lollipop.
I thought it sounded like a lot of fun. You could skip along, and you know, actually, I'll probably be volunteering at one of the tables, which is probably a lot of work too, but that's okay.
And this Saturday at the library is the teddy bear picnic.
Yay!
I don't have a teddy bear, so unfortunately I cannot attend. And as
I know where you could buy one quick.
Well, actually, I sent an email this afternoon. You guys will all be getting the, this is really, can I cut in on what you're saying with that? The Kiwanis of Mount Olive, Kelly Gregory, one of our longtime members, started a program last year where it's $11 for people to sponsor a teddy bear. And so far, they've donated 50 of them. What it is like you buy the teddy bear, but it goes to, you know, they had 50 go to St. Clair's Hospital, 50 went to Hackettstown Hospital, and it's for the staff to give to children in times of need and they need comfort. Now the next 50 is going to be going to the Mount Olive Police Department to disperse to the children, and there's 7 away. And since we have 7 council members and the mayor, figure, and Mr. Canning, if we all divide, we can finish up this last group of 50, and they'll be able to donate the 50 bears to the police department. Mr. Perkins.
Madam President, I think that's a great idea, and if you would take that out of my account,
Yeah,
Lisa, I would appreciate that.
Everybody's in favor?
Everybody, yeah, I sent the email
Yes.
earlier, so thank you very much for, so, that way we can get them off to the police department. I also invited Kiwanis when they, and what they usually do, with the email I sent to Mrs. Lashway earlier today, I had the picture that they had from when they went to Hackettstown and donated the teddy bears, and I invited Kiwanis if they want to come here to a council meeting and donate the bears to the police, or if they might have another way that they want to, another kind of a presentation. But I thought that'd be really nice. It's a really great program that they've been doing, and that's part of the teddy bear picnic. The recreation reached out to Kiwanis and wanted them to join in with them and kind of put it all together. It's just a very wonderful, heartwarming thing to do. And children, when you're not feeling good, snuggling up with the teddy bear is really nice. So, Mr. Roman, you have more to discuss?
I only have one additional thing to do. It's technically recreation. This Saturday is opening season for trout. Approximately 180,000 trout were already in the waters, and if past history is any indication of future success, I will catch none of them. And that is all I have.
TNR, I don't have anything right now to report other than TNR had sent me a recommendation possibly of having our ACO go into the schools to give a humane discussion on, how to deal with animals and such. And as we all know, we seem to have a lot more wildlife lately. Bear was visiting us the other night, and we have fox, and it's just good education. And then, Mr. Kenny, I think we're going to look into that possibly. Mr. Nelson was interested in.
Yeah, he's looking into it, and it also benefits us. It's a credit area for Sustainable Jersey, so it helps us with our to maintain our certification.
Yeah, so that'll be excellent. And now we're on to our public portion, and we have Mr. Ireland.
Thank you. Scott Ireland, 6 Eric Court. As I was here for the discussion at the beginning of or at the genesis of the project for your sign out front, I'd like to report on a survey I took of all the residents and the drivers at 6 Eric Court. And the consensus is that the sign is either too bright or can't be read as you drive by it. So I was wondering if there's any, what has been done, or how's the council feel about it, and is the product what you were hoping for? I happened to drive in, I had a test as I drove in today for the meeting, and there was some sort of headline on the top. It was so blurry I couldn't read it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of curious as to if there's any remediation going to be done on the sign.
I think, Mr. Kenny, you had said that it was too bright, you were going to dim it down, or?
It's been dimmed several times. We can dim it more. Again, I'd like to know, it's a work in progress. The sign is multifunctional. We can actually display videos, or we can just go to the plain red lettering and a black background. Currently, the mayor's been in favor of keeping the brightness as dim as possible. We could dim it even further. Again, the more we dim it, it's a fine line we're trying to strike right now between readability and still some pleasant aesthetics as to the sign. But again, we can go, it's a multifunctional sign. You can go to graphics if you like, to, from local sports teams or whatever, or you can just go to plain red lettering on black.
Can we have Mr. Nikel?
As a resident, I would make a vote in favor of even like that simple black with the red lettering. The high school sign you can read perfect every time you drive by it. Sometimes simple is better. If the purpose is to inform people as you're driving by, like I said, I couldn't even read whatever was written up there today. So
I haven't been able to read it yet, but Mr. Kitten, I agree with you. Mr. Nicastro?
Yeah, that was the issue, and I believe, Sean, at one time we discussed it. I think I don't know if it's a font that's a shadow font or something. That's the problem, I think. Looking at it, it gets blurry because
I'm not the expert on this.
But I think
Christie is, and she's been trying to hone her skills to font that.
I mean, if it's just like the printing, it's the same problem we have. If you put shadow on it, you can't read it. And it looks like that's the issue, is the shadowing. If there's something in there, you can check, because that's been a problem.
Yeah.
Is trying to see it.
Do we have Mr. Perkins and then Mr. Roman?
Did you have a hand up?
Yeah, you both did. Okay.
A before.
Okay.
Sean, do you remember, I had earlier asked about maybe angling the sign, opening it up so that as you're driving by, instead of it being perpendicular, it kind of angles towards, because that's one of the reasons, I think one of the things that makes the high school sign so visible is when you're driving, you're looking right at it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, I'd like to at least, if you can look into that as far as opening it up.
I asked Mr. Wolpert about that. It would entail structural changes into that. I think my recommendation would be, let's get this complete with the topper we went on today, and we want to get the blocks underneath, and then we can examine into getting a welder in here and perhaps spacing it. The next stage is to get the Belgian blocks or landscape blocks underneath, and we want to be careful to make sure we get that, the aesthetics look nice, and then see if we can angle it out about 4 inches or so.
And-
I'm not sure it's possible, but we'll take a look at it.
And I for one, think that it's much better to tone down the graphics and just make
The message.
The message as quick, as succinct as possible. Especially when I'm driving by at 75 miles an hour, I can't read it.
Mr. Perkins, oh, you're the one that's going 75.
Yeah, he's the one.
He's the one.
Yeah.
I've been
Mr.
lowering everything
Perkins?
because of me.
Thank you, Madam President. Scott, I guess the first night, if you drove home, the first night that was on there, we had deer frozen in the headlights. It was tremendously bright. A couple of things on the sign. I mean, I like the sign. I agree with you. Putting things like green lettering for Mount Olive and different events, or pink lettering or red lettering with a bright white background, I can't read it. And I'm getting old and wearing glasses, but I still can't read it. I agree with you. I think red lettering with a black background for anything that needs to be an announcement, and you could always interchange that with the nice color. The flag could come in, but anything that's an announcement, I think you're right, Scott. I think it makes sense. Just it's so much easier to read the high school ones. I did want to commend the administration for getting the topper on.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
That looks phenomenal. I'm glad I was able to help out and get that at a much reduced cost and try to keep the costing down on that. But Scott, you're one of the first people from the audience that's come up and said anything about the sign. Thank goodness. You know.
Well, we had a lot to say
To
the
me,
first
you go
night.
all the way down to 0 and you start from the dullest and you bring it up. But I think we got to work the background. I think we went to the top and we keep trying to bring it down. I think we ought to get to the bottom and bring it up.
We'll change it. Christie's our resident expert. She's on vacation this week. I'll see if me and Lisa can hack our way through there
Find
and
some new
change
method.
it. If not, it'll be changed on Monday at the latest.
You put a screen over the front
Mr.
of it.
Mania?
Sean, can't we get the manufacturer down to kind of help us in what we're trying to accomplish with that sign?
Well, they did provide training. Their view of this is like it's fully capable, of a very robust sign with video graphics and the whole bit, and I don't think we're quite ready for that. We can go the other way and just do the plain letter road.
I thought the top looked fantastic today, seeing that up there, but unfortunately, I'm going to have to say that the brightness of the bottom part of the sign took away from the beauty of the top of the sign. So maybe tone it down.
We're going to plant big shrubs so you can't see the bottom.
Oh, anybody else from the public? Anything? Nothing? Okay. Council comments. Anybody from the council? Okay, we're going to be going into executive session this evening. And after executive session, we will not be taking any action. So if anybody wants to wait outside, you're welcome to. But once we end our executive session, we'll be closing the meeting. And Mr. Perkins, would you please bring us into executive session? And everybody, please drive safe, and thank you for coming.
Don't drive like me.
Yes, Madam President, I make a motion that we move into executive session for discussing of litigation and MOTPIA negotiations.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Does anybody feel like you need a break before we go in, or
No,
can we
no,
just
I don't
start?
The minutes of this session will be available